start from reminding you that Russia's war in Ukraine is going on, and each day brings new killed people, new destroyed cities, and broken lives. So we have to use all the instruments in our hands in order to stop this aggression in Ukraine. In this regard, this is really the shame that we were not able to implement the sixth package of sanctions for Russia. And I hope very much that today we will close the last open page and we will succeed to have the result. And then we will start to consider the seventh package of sanctions, which is critically important in order to increase the pressure on Russia. Then a very important question is to think already about the rebuilding of Ukraine. The rebuilding of Ukraine is crucially important because I saw it with my eyes that at the same time the war is going on, and that at the same time Ukrainians try to rebuild the cities, to rebuild the houses, and to bring the order into the normal situation. I think it's very important to contribute to the rebuilding of Ukraine, but this should be not only our cost. This should be the cost of the aggressor, because aggressor is using this war against Ukraine, and we have probably one of the possible options could be to use frozen assets of Russian oligarchs and Russian entities in order to finance the rebuilding of Ukraine. One more important issue is logistic of Ukrainian grains. As you probably know, we are now considering the possibility to unblock Odessa as a port city in order to provide opportunity to Ukrainians to sell the grain to different countries of the world. This will be not so easy because Russia is using this as a tool, as an instrument of manipulation and blackmailing. But we could provide another alternative to bring Ukrainian grain to the Baltic port cities, Polish port cities, through territory of Poland. And I have to say that we already organized 2 trains, pilot trains, and brought this grain to Lithuanian port city Klaipėda. This shows that actually this way or this alternative is possible. This is very important as alternative to the unblocking of the port cities. And Lithuania will do all in our hands in order to support Ukraine in this regard.
Some other side of this war is the unreached countries, in Africa especially, they cannot even find the flour to cook, to eat. Are you considering this country? Are you working for them? Are you trying to find a solution for them?
This medal has both sides. The problems to sell Ukrainian grain abroad, of course, creates first of all the problem for Ukraine itself because it does not allow to get the necessary revenues, foreign exchange. But another side of the coin is, of course, the problems of food security in vulnerable countries, as you mentioned in North Africa. Yes, we are considering this risk, this threat as very serious, and this is the reason why we put all our efforts in order to open this window of export, and I hope that we will manage it. Sorry, I cannot hear it.
History of countries, because we are waiting opinion from Commission. Is there a consensus regarding both countries? What do you think? Is it time?
Regarding candidate status?
Yes, Georgia, Moldova, and Ukraine. And is it time?
I expect.
Political message.
I am looking forward that the European Commission conclusions will be proposed at the beginning of next month, and then of course it will be political decision. I could imagine, and I would be the believer who believes that it is possible to grant the candidate status for all 3 countries. But you know, this is a political process, as I mentioned, and Of course, the priority now is Ukraine, and Ukraine is in middle of the war, defending the European values, first of all. Because sometimes we speak about European values as some bureaucratic procedures and bureaucratic requirements. For me, most important is that Ukraine is defending European values, defending us, if you want, not only themselves, but defending our freedom too. And this is least what we can do for Ukraine, to switch the green light for them. And this green light means that they will stay at the beginning of very long process, and finally they will complete this process with membership. Why we are?
Via Russia's aggression, Georgia will be first. We have 2 wars.
Unfortunately, you know, this is deliberate policy of Russia to create the conflict, to freeze it, and to stop the country from the progress. And probably this is the obstacle. Of course, I can agree that it is the obstacle, but not let Russia win by using this policy of frozen conflicts. And Ukraine is the best example. Yes, someone may consider that Ukraine is in the middle of the war. Why we should talk about the candidate status? Because they have to, first of all, they have to achieve the victory. But this is exactly why we are talking that right now they need a candidate status, because this is a factor of fighting spirit for them. And fighting spirit depends on our ability, our commitment to support them effectively. Thank you. I would welcome every conversation, phone talks with anybody if they bring some result. Unfortunately, our sad experience shows that it did not bring any result at all. And probably opposite is the case, that Russia feels that they are like legitimized by these talks. Having the possibility freely talk with the leaders of Western Europe, promise nothing, do nothing, and just to fool them. I unfortunately cannot avoid this word. So this is the reason why I am really skeptical about these efforts. I appreciate these efforts because I know that the intention of these efforts is positive, but unfortunately the result is obvious, and we have to draw some conclusions from that.
What message does it send to the Baltic states?
Baltic states are really committed to support Ukraine, because we as nobody else understand that next target might be the Baltic countries. So this is the reason, and of course our empathy to Ukrainian people is the reason why we stand in the first lines of supporters of Ukraine. No matter are we talking about political support, economic support, militarily support, or just we are discussing the issue of candidate status to Ukraine. Yes, we believe that candidate status is a question not of tomorrow, but the question of today. And we will continue our efforts to get the final result at June, end of June, in the next European Council.
So you don't expect much from today's talks, tomorrow's talks?
I hope that they will contribute to our energy and defense security very much. But the subject is not Ukraine itself. The subject is our energy independence, which is, by the way, critically important. And we have to set long-term targets in order to achieve them. Lithuania did it 20 years ago, by the way. Now we bear the fruits of this process. So now the turn in the hands of our partners to do the same. And first of all, the long-term target should be independence of European energy sector.